we are trying to divide our complete system into number of segments, smaller segments. So why you wanted to divide into smaller segments? Because the complete project cannot be done by a single team, because the knowledge related or required for completing a single project will not be sufficient if I'm using only a single team. Means like if I want to developing a project, I need to involve even CSC department to be involved, even EC also should be involved, even mechanical also should be involved. So that only completes a project. So like that, its software part alone can be taken care by the computer science department. Like the manufacturing part, the hardware part can be taken care by the mechanical department. The electronic parts can be taken care by the EC department. Like that, we have to integrate many departments together. So like for that reason, we are going to segment your project into number of phases. So even if we are taking a computer alone, means if I'm taking only computer implementation, the software implementation alone, only 10 people is there. So whether the 10 people have the knowledge about all the parts, few will be having knowledge about the database implementation, few will be having the knowledge about the front end implementation, few will be having the knowledge about your API implementation. So all of them will not have the complete knowledge about all the three. So we will be dividing them into the groups. So then we are trying to divide our project into segments, that is small part or small modules, and we are trying to give that module for a set of people who is very well versed or very good in that particular area to develop that. So that only we are going to do in the segments and classes. So first we have to divide your system into subsystems. And now coming to the subsystems, even the subsystem can be further divided. So your subsystem is nothing but the interfaces, or it can be a contained class, or it can be a complete a bundle of classes can also be called as your subsystem. So overall system is nothing but a bundle of subsystems and classes. For example, if you take packages, I think you will be remembering your Java packages, import java.util.star, like that you would have used it. So that java.util is a package. So what will be inside that package? I can have one more package, or I can have some classes. So this one more package is again called as your subsystem. One subsystem is having one more subsystem inside. Like one more subsystem can have one more subsystem inside. Like that, you can have any number of subsystem, or else you can have a raw classes like scanner you will be using java.util.scanner. Scanner is a raw class inside that util package. But if I'm trying to use one more package over there, for example, event package, so java.util.event. So inside that event, I have some classes. Like that, one subsystem can have any number of subsystems, or the subsystem can have a number of classes also. So now, here the logical components. Here initially, when I'm trying to divide the subsystem, according to, I will not have the complete knowledge about my project. Initially, once I got my analysis report, I will start dividing my project into a subsystems. So these are called as components. Wherever you can see one box with two rectangle, or square box with rectangle shape. So that is called as your component. That is the symbol is called as your component. Can you see this component symbol? So this is your component symbol. So these are the subsystems where your rectangle box is called as your subsystems. So here this dashed lines, what is the use of this?
Interacting with the functionalities, ma'am.
Yes. Yes. So this is going to show the interaction between the components. So why they have given with the dashed lines, that is the dependencies. Why they have given with the dashed line? Initially, they will not know that exactly what is the level of dependency they are having. So only to represent that, they will be using a dashed lines. So how they will be finalizing the dashed lines into the original interface connection, that comes into the next part, which is called as services and subsystem interfaces. So first of all, what is mean by API? Application programming interface is nothing but where you are having a number of classes which is already predefined classes. You're trying to make use of that predefined classes into your project to implement your own program. For example, the same Java, if you take Java, already you have a scanner class, already you have a swings, already you have AWT, you have everything in the form of a class. you have to use that class inside your program to implement your own project. So that all this club together is called as an system in, I mean, interfaces. This is application programming interface. Another term of your interface is nothing but it's a gateway between two subsystems. So now if I have one subsystem and another subsystem, what is the linking between this subsystem to the another subsystem? That is called as your interface. So now we have seen about your user interface. You remember when I'm trying to withdraw amount from my ATM, my desktop, that ATM machine is going to act as the user interface, where I'll be inserting my card, where I'll be entering my PIN number. So that is a user interface. Similar to that, one system to the another subsystem, if you wanted to have a link, the communication, the interaction, then it should be done through your interfaces, right? So this interface is like your wall in your house. Once you have constructed the wall, removing the wall, replacing the wall into some other place is literally difficult. So the deciding the subsystem and deciding the interaction between the subsystem is very, very important part, because once it is done, demolishing it and reconstructing it is very difficult. So what exactly services means? Services is nothing but is a set of operations which is going to share a common purpose. So what is that set of operations? For example, if you're trying to do some banking operation, so you will be having so many operations. You're trying to do banking service. We'll take it as a service. What are the operations they can do? They can withdraw amount. You can credit some money, or you can check your balance, or you can change your PIN number. Like that, they have set of operations, but each operations will be having a different set of objects involved and different set of interfaces required. Here they have given one example, a subsystem which is going to providing you the notification services. So what is a notification services? When you're seeing your YouTube channel, mostly they will be asking you to subscribe. You can click the bell icon where you will get the notification. I think you would have heard all these things. So this is called as the notification services. So what is the notification services? You have logged in through your account, your Gmail account or your Yahoo account, to watch some YouTube videos. So when you're trying to give a notification, when you're trying to click notification symbol on that particular video, it will capture your identity and it will be trying to send the information back to the same email ID when a new video is uploaded from the same account or related to the same information, right? So like that, the example is given here as notification services. So to do this notification services, only one system is sufficient. Obviously it is not possible, because one system will be capturing your identity, one system will be sending the notification to you, one system will be seeing the subscription amount or how many years you have subscribed, one system will be doing the unsubscription. So like that, one particular subsystems will be doing different tasks. So how these subsystems are connected? These subsystems are connected using your interface, application programming interface. Right. So how this interface is shown in the UML representation. So here the UML representation is in the form of ball and socket connector. So here in this diagram, you can see a ball and socket connector. So this is a ball and a socket connector, which is going to show that the resource management is going to provide services to the field officer. What is mean by the services? The resource management is going to say what are the resources are available, means how many fire engines are available, how many ambulances are available, how many first aid kits are available. Like that, the resource management will be there. So according to the field officer, the same example, the same old example, the field officer, when an accident is coming there, he will open the front, he will enter the detail, and dispatcher will dispatch the resources. The same example. So here field officer is an one of the subsystem. For that, an interface is there. Interface is nothing but a person or a layer which is going to have a communication to the another subsystem. That is a meaning of your interface over to this part. So whenever a field officer needs certain resources, he have to go to the resource management and he have to check. Like when you want to withdraw the amount, you want to go and check your balance. So your balance is going to be provided by the resource management. When you want to dispatch some amount, obviously you want to check the balance that is provided by the resource management. Either you withdraw or you want to credit it, anything if you want to do, you want to check your balance, what is the current balance. So after crediting, what will be the balance, or if you want to withdraw, what will be the balance. So that balance checking is being provided by your resource management. So this subsystem is going to provide some services to the other subsystem, which is represented using the ball and socket connection, which is well defined. Initially, this is shown, yes, initially this is shown using the dashed lines, because when I'm trying to do this in the first state, I will not get the complete information how much solidly this system is going to connect to the other system. So I have literally given a dash line. So he may use this resource management. He may use this map management. But once I started involving into the project, when I'm trying to design my interfaces, then I can come to know what is a solid connection, or which are the subsystem will be solidly connected to the other subsystem. To represent that, I need to use ball and socket connection. This is your second concept. The third concept is coupling and cohesion. So coupling is nothing but the number of differences between two subsystems. So always coupling should be reduced and cohesion should be more, because coupling means when two different subsystem is depending too much on to that, then the coupling will be more. It is very difficult. If one subsystem fails, the other subsystem cannot work. So like that, the dependency between two subsystems should be reduced, and cohesion means it is dependencies within the subsystem. So within the subsystem, if it is increased, it is well and good, because all the objects having a proper communication. So you can increase cohesion and you have to reduce your coupling part. So here an example is given. So here what is exactly shown, we have a system, map management system, resource management system, incident management system. All these are subsystems which is going to have a communication with the database. So now this is example of your coupling. So what is exactly going to happen using your coupling? What is a drawback you will get if you have more coupling? So here, so database is being accessed by all the three resources. So now your map management and your resource management and incident management will be accessing the database, which is stored in, which is need to be used an SQL query. So which is stored using normal SQL plus or an Oracle database. So they have to send the query, and according to the query, the database have to be answered to them. But what is the drawback here? If I want to change the database, if I want to change the vendor of the database, the structure of the stored information inside the database will be different. So if you use select star from a student table, you will not get the answer, because the database vendor is different. It will not work for select star from database. You have to specify select student name, comma, student ID, comma, student USN, like that you have to specify. But if you want to change it, and if you wanted to change the vendor, then what you have to do, you have to go back to each and every individual component, and each and every component the query style, instead of select star, you have to write the query select student name, student USN, student number, and then you have to again execute it. It is literally a burden for us. Whenever we wanted to change the database vendor, for example, every 1 year we wanted to change the database vendor. So like that, if every 1 year you cannot go to the project whatever you have already developed, and you cannot change the code or the usage of your query to access the database. So this is the problem with the coupling, because all other systems are completely depend on to the database query. So if any changes is happening, then completely all the system have to be changed. So to overcome this, what I can do to reduce the coupling, what can I do? I can go for some alternative solution. So what is the alternative solution? Instead of having a direct access, I'll be having a in between third person. There's a storage. This is called as your tier 3 architecture. In your Java, when you are trying to connect, that is not even in Java, when you're trying to have your object oriented concept, there are tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 connections. So tier 3 connection is will be having a middleware. Who is that middleware? Who is that person middleware? In the sense, you can send the question in any format. He will convert the question in the form which is understandable by the database. You can send it in the form of select star from student, but your database will understand select username, password, then the number, then only your student can database can understand. But you don't want to do that changes. When you're sending to select star from student, automatically the storage person who is a third person who is a third tier will automatically change your query format according to the database understandable one. So now if you change the database vendor also, the changes in the individual component no need to be happened, because the changes will be taken care by the storage. So only if you change your database, then only the storage person alone you can update it. No need to change the number of components which is directly depend on to your databases. So this is one of the disadvantage of coupling, which can be overcome by using a alternative solution. Is this is clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So this is related to your collision. So next, coming to your cohesion. What is mean by cohesion? It is the dependency within the subsystem. If a subsystem is containing many objects and they are related to each other, then the cohesion is high. So you need to have a more cohesion. So in order to provide you with a, good system. So here another one example also shown. This is the example for dividing your system. So here you're wanted to increase the cohesion, and you're going to increase, in order to increase the cohesion, you're trying to have a subsystem into subsystem. Means you're having one subsystem, you're trying to divide that subsystem to another subsystem. So what this example is exactly, you have to take a decision. You have to, there is a certain problem. For that particular problem you have to do a decision. So from where you will take a decision, you will be having a database where the database will be stored with hell lot of decisions. So according to the decision, you can pick any one from that and solve your problem. So what is the criterion? According to the criterion, you will be having a set of problem. For example, you have a problem with the withdrawal uh, criterion problem, or you have a problem with crediting certain amount to your account, or you have a problem by changing the password for a certain account. So what is your problem? What is the criterion of your problem? If a password changing is your problem, then it will show you the list of options, what and all you can do. You can go for this particular settings, you can change your password from this to this, then you can sign out your system, restart the system, like that. It will be showing a list of options. From that you can take one of the decisions, and then using the decisions your problem can be solved. So now in this diagram, your decision is being divided into subtask. Means, as I told you, first you have to go to settings, then from settings you have to go to this particular panel. In this panel you will be having this option. You have to rename that particular option to update your password resetting options, like that. So your decisions is divided into subtasks. But according to this complete diagram, this subtask or action item or task, this is completely not directly related to this decision process. Directly it is not related to criterion, directly it is not related to design problem, or directly it is not related to option. So there is a problem. So there is no proper cohesion between these all these sub tasks. So what they are trying to do, they are trying to segment it into two subsystems. So one subsystem is called as rational subsystem, which is going to give you a set of decision. From this decision you are going to opt one particular decision for your problem, what you're going to face it. So now you have selected one decision. For that decision, what are the options are there, how I have to do, what are the set of tasks I have to perform. So that is completely divided as a separate planning subsystem. If I took a decision, there will be 10 steps I have to follow, 10 tasks I have to follow. Then that is completely given using a planning subsystem. So now the cohesion between these three task, action, task, these are more, and the cohesion between these things are more. And you have a coupling also, means like it is showing ball and socket connection. So you have a coupling also. From this interface you can connect to this interface. Means you can connect from this subsystem to the planning subsystem. So like that, wherever you didn't have a proper cohesion, wherever you didn't feel my system is not having a complete unity. There is a particular part which is completely different from my original part. So I can segregate or separate it from the original one and make us a separate system. And that system can be used for any other processing. Very general layman example, if I tell you about your ATM system, changing the pin number of your ATM card. So changing the pin number of the ATM card may not be directly belongs to withdrawal and credit. So withdrawal and credit is completely depend on your balance or your account number, which is related to the bank, everything. So this changing PIN number is not direct, it is not cohesion, it's not completely dependent on to the withdrawal or credit. So what I can do, I can make that as a separate use case. Change PIN number is a separate use case. So separate use case means I can be developed it as a separate subsystem. So I can have separate objects for that communication. Then I can use an interface to connect between the changing PIN number and the withdrawal. If you withdrawal, when I inserted some card and after I'm doing withdrawal, if I want to change my PIN number, yes, you can go to this subsystem to the another subsystem and do your work. But always the withdrawal should not need to have the provision for changing your PIN code. That is not required. So wherever you're feeling your cohesion is not being achieved, then more possibly you can divide your system into number of subsystems also. So whenever you're trying to divide the subsystems, the number of subsystems should not go more than 7 plus or minus 2. Means it should be 5 to 9. Maximum 9 can be there or minimum 5 can be there. So this is the proper. For example, if you're having a subsystem, so how many subsystems you may have to divide for a single project? Can I have 7? Yes. Can I have 9? Yes. Can I have 11? No. Probably it is not good subsystem. It is not the good way of developing a project. So try to reduce it. So maximum a subsystem provides 9 services. So maximum it is more than sufficient. So more than 9, no, it is not supportable. It is not supportable in the sense it's not the good way of implementing your project. So for a best example for this is your OSI layer. So OSI layer, you know, 7 layers is there. If you take TCP/IP model, TCP/IP model is having only 5 layers. Something will be having 3 layers also. So maximum the very good implemented project will be having the interconnection between the subsystem or the services provided in between the subsystem should not go beyond 9 and it should not be less than 5 also, right? So this is about your cohesion and coupling. So what is a major thing in your cohesion and coupling? Coupling have to be reduced. Coupling means the connection, the inter dependencies between the subsystem should be reduced. What is cohesion? The dependency within the subsystem should be increased. If you feel the dependency is very less within the subsystem, you can divide the subsystem into further subsystems and make the cohesion more possible. That is very important for your project to be done. That is your design to be done. Next one comes as your layers and partitions. So layers, as I told you, the one of the very good example is your OSI layer. So that is a layer architecture where you wanted to send or transfer some data from one system to the another system. We are following that structure only. So what is exactly a layering is nothing but a grouping of subsystem which is going to be in a single layer. The single layer is completely peer-to-peer, like one layer, all the systems will be having the same priority. But to the lower layer only, it can have the communication, but it cannot have the communication to the higher layer. Means it cannot depend on to the higher level, but it is completely depend on to the lower layer. So there are two different types of architecture. One is closed architecture, another one is open architecture. So what is meant by closed architecture? Each layer can access only one layer, only the layer which is immediately below. That only your OSI layer will do, whichever immediately below. For example, layer 3 will be accessed by layer 2. Layer 2 will be accessed by layer 1. So that is your closed architecture. So what is the open architecture? In the sense, layers can also access layers at the deeper level. Means A layer can access to F layer also. Means the layer 1 can access to layer 3 also. So then it is called as an open architecture. So whichever is convenient for you, you can implement it. So now these are the vertical slices. This is vertical slices where you can see the number of these things are vertically sliced, the number of subsystems are vertically sliced. You can have horizontal sliced layers also. So whichever is required, you can have that particular type of layering or partitioning part. So partitioning means almost like vertical structure only we'll be having as a partitioning. So now what is an example for closed architecture? As I told you, the closed architecture example is your OSI. OSI layer is a well-defined closed architecture. Why it is well-defined? Because that is the most used one for sending the data from one system to the another system. So the bottom layer is called as your physical layer. Then is your data link layer. Third layer is a network layer. Fourth is transport. Fifth is your session. Sixth is your presentation. Seventh is your application layer. So each layer will depend on to the lower layer. Like physical layer doesn't depend on anything else. It cannot depend on anything else, but it will be used for transmitting your communication channel. So once what is the data link layer will be doing it? It will be dividing into frames. So the data will be divided into frames. You can see here the data will be divided into frames, and then from where the data will come, it will come from the network layer. Network layer will send the data to the data link layer. It will divide the packets into frames. From where the packets will come, it is from the transport layer, which will be sending us a message. That message will be divided into chunks, and each chunk is called as your packet. So from where I will get the message, it is got through the session, and where I'll get the key will be, that is your encryption decryption process. All these things is done in your presentation. So that from there you will be sending the session, so which socket session, which connection is required. So through that you will be sending the further message to the transport. So now what is going to happen? From the application layer, it is going to send the information to the presentation layer, then to the session layer, next to the transport layer, next to the network layer, next to the data link layer, next to the physical layer, and it is going to transmit the data to the next system. So this is the one of the example of your closed architecture. Means like the data link layer is depend on to the physical layer. So like that network layer is depend on to the data link layer. So like that it will be having only to the lower level. The closed architecture is nothing but each layer can access only to the layer immediate below. So only that can be accessed. Your data link layer can access only the physical layer. Data link layer can be accessed by the network layer, and network layer can be accessed by the transport layer. This is an example of your closed architecture. And we can have a number of layers also can be less. As I told you, TCP IP will be having hardly 5 layers. Link layer will be there, network layer will be there, transport layer and application layer. In link layer itself, both the things will be there. Data link as well as your physical layer also will be clubbed together, and MAC address, Ethernet address, you would have heard all these things. So all that things will be there in your link layer. Next to network, next to transport, next to your application. So if I wanted to do the presentation and session layers, it is actually not having the presentation and session layer, but I need to have something which will do that presentation and session layer. So I can replace it with a Corba or Java RMI, remote method invocation. So you can replace any of these things which will be doing third party, which will be doing the presentation and session layer concept. Means like whenever you are sending a data from transport layer to the another transport layer through the socket, you would have heard it. Socket, when you are trying to send it, if you wanted to encrypt that data, whatever you are sending from one transport layer to the another transport layer, P2P connection, if you wanted to encrypt that messages, then that can be done by a third party. Using a third party, you can use it. Corba or Java remote method invocation that you can use for doing your sessions or other layer operations, sessions or presentation layer, which is called as third party, or which will be called as a middleware. As I showed you that storage example, right? So that person will take care of all these things, and he will be converting the missing things, and then he will be transferring the information from one system to the another system. So another example for open architecture. So far we have discussed about your closed architecture. So another example is as the open architecture is the swings. So swings, I think you would have heard about swings. So what is the use of swings? Swings is used for developing a desktop applications. For example, if you are using a calculator, So when you're trying to play a game in a system like bouncing ball game where you no need anybody else, it automatically play according to that. So like that, if you wanted to play, develop a game, or if you wanted to have a calculator, very simple, it is a calculator. So to implement a calculator, you have certain buttons, you have some label, you have some text box. When you enter 2 plus 3, it will calculate and show you the output. So that whatever you're seeing, the buttons are all called as your user interfaces. So for doing that, when you click the button, it should add. If you click plus, it should add the number which is there on the text area. If it is minus, if you click minus, whatever the number which is present on the text area should be deduced. That is, subtraction should be carried out. For that, you are going to write a code. So this swings is used for developing a certain such kind of an applications in Java. So swings is actually developed from the AWT, that is abstract window toolkit. So initially in Java version 1, there is no swings concept. It was done through the AWT concept. There is a drawback of AWT because AWT is completely platform dependent. If you send one smiley symbol from your mobile to your friend mobile, the smiley symbol, if it is not supported by your friend mobile, then it will be shown like two dot with one smiles line, like that it will be showing, because that particular mobile operating system is not supporting your friends emojis or the smileys what you have sent. So that is called as your platform dependent. So everything will be platform dependent. So if you see one image in your one particular operating system, and if you see the same image in the another operating system, it will be differ, because the pixel, the quality, the operating system will adapt, everything will be differ. So such kind of things is done through your AWT. To overcome that, we went for swings. So when you're trying to implement any of the application using your swings, then you can have like that. Your XLL is nothing but your low level of your drawing things. That is like a button or a text if you want to paste, or a label you have to paste. It's like a library or a platform where you can do that. So from that, it is completely implemented by AWT. So as I told you, AWT is a platform dependent one. So from AWT, your swings been implemented, and then your applications been implemented using swings. Even you can use swings. Through swings, your AWT and your XLL can be achieved. Or else, without swings also, you can directly implement your AWT. Like your old applets and all will be implemented using your AWT concepts only. Even your JApplet will be called implemented using your swings. So whichever you want, you can use it. Even if you use JApplet, few concepts you have to use it from the AWT only. For example, if you're setting the border or your layout should be set, so all that concepts and all is available in AWT only. So this application either can be developed by swings, in turn swings can be supporting the AWT, and in turn it goes to X11, which is a low level drawing facility, or else directly application can go to the AWT level also. This is called as your open architecture. Means like any layer can have deeper accessing to any other layer also. So it is not compulsory always the application layer should have the communication with its immediate layer only. No, it can have the communication with deeper to any level also. Even the application can be directly implemented using XLL also. Only a few button, or only the name should be there. Like your Gmail account, you are asking username and password and one submit button. So more than sufficient if I'm using AWT or XLL. No need to have strings. So if you want a background image, a graphical, full of graphical images should be there, different color, different animation concepts I need to have, then you can use the swings. So your application can go to swing level, or it can go to the lower level also. Then it is called as your open architecture. So which architecture you need to follow, you can make use of that architecture using your concept. So that is your layers and partitions. So now what does exactly mean partitions? So you can see here, the partition the system into peer subsystems. As I told you, peer subsystems in the sense the same level. So this is your peer subsystem. Whatever here I'm showing, the first diagram, this is your peer subsystem. Your subsystem B and C will be having the same priority, same level. But the working of that will be different. As one day I gave you the example, me and Geeta ma'am will be taking different subject, but we are peer to peer connection only. But the services what we are providing will be different, but the priority, the level what we are having, it will be the same. So this is called as your partition, right? So horizontally, when you are having, these are called as your layer. When you are having a layer architecture, layer partitioning, then you can have a closed architecture or open architecture communication. So when you are having a partition, yes, you can have a partition also, where each level will be having a same priority, and same different set of communications will be happen. Here they have given an example for partition. Like this example will be proceeded also. So what is an example is like onboard system for a car, which could be decomposed into travel services that provides a real-time direction to the driver. So here, how it is going to provide the real-time direction to the driver means you have a system in your car. You will be having a front. You will be having a monitor which will be showing the direction where you are traveling, and even it will show the fuel. If it is less, it will show the fuel. It will set the seat, driver seat position automatically. It can set, and it will tell that what time you have to do the maintenance part, what time you have to do the repair, what type of repair you have to do. So all, wherever your what is your favorite radio station, or where your petrol bunk is located, like this, so many options are there. So these are called as partitions. Means there are different set of operations, but all having the same priority, all having the same peer-to-peer communication. Then you will be having a partition. Partition, very simple. Vertical connect, vertical slicing is called as partition. Horizontal slicing, if you are using, it may be called as your layers also. Layers can also have partitions, because one layer can have more than one subsystem which can act as your peer-to-peer communication. Until this is clear, styles. So you have certain designs, like you will be having client server model, you will be having a database model. Like that, we will be having different three tier architecture, two tier architecture. Two tier architecture is nothing but your client server. Three tier architecture is nothing but middle person, middleware will be there. As I showed you the database connectivity, storage, like middle person will be there. If you send the request in any format, that middle person will convert that request into the the destination format, and you will be getting the output according to you. Very simple. What does the middle person means? If I know English, the opposite person know Hindi. So what we need to have in intermediator will should be there, who knows both the languages. So whatever I am trying to tell in English, he have to convert that into the form of Hindi, and he will be conveying into the opposite person. And the opposite person, whatever he is telling in his own language, that will be converted to the understandable language of mine, and that is the work of the middle person. So like that, we will be having different architectural styles. So what are the architectural styles we are need to be having? So here, when you are having an inter subsystem connect communication, so when you're having one subsystem to the another subsystem communication, so why you need to have one subsystem to another subsystem communication? Because as a project, a complete subsystem have to be integrated to form a one complete system. So inside the subsystem, the communication, it will be taken care by the cohesion concept, like how the communication have to be done, what communication, what way it should be communicated, all these things will be taken care. But one subsystem to the another subsystem, the communication have to be different, the understandability will be different. So we have to provide certain architectural style which will be common for all the subsystem to have the communication between the subsystems. So that are the architectural style. The first architectural style what we are going to discuss is called as your repository. So what is this repository in this name? It is nothing but a data structure. You will be having a linked list. That means the data is stored in the linked list, or the data is stored in the circular list. Like that, you are going to have a repository architectural style. So this repository architectural style, that is, the subsystems will be interacting only through the repository. So if anything you wanted to discuss with any other subsystem, it will send the information to the repository, or through the repository it will be sending the information to the another subsystem. Like this, repositories will be used. So for what mostly these repositories are used? These repositories are mostly used for your database management system. Like if you're trying to do a payroll management or a banking system management, so there will be a central location. If you're taking a banking system, there will be a central database. So through the database, as I told you, for every location you will be having a separate database, that is a subsystem. So when you are withdrawing an amount from KR area, then sometime you can withdraw the amount from MG Road. So there will be a local subsystems, but the connection to the subsystem or the information need to be updated to the central repository, central database. So that is called as the repository model. So here an example is shown. Uh, so exactly this is an example is shown, like how the repository subsystem is implemented, like a global control flow, how it is being implemented. So here you will be having a compiler is going to do certain operation. You know what compiler will do: semantic analyzer, system analyzer, lexical analysis. Semantic in the sense, the meaning of the line what you have written, if a greater than 0, that will be analyzed. System syntactic in the sense whether if of that open and close is proper. So that is comes as your syntax analysis. So all these representations, how to do this compilation operations, will be stored in a repository. So it will be stored in the repository of parse tree or symbol table. So from that you will do the debugging or editing option. So exactly what is mean by that repository? For example, you're typing certain code in your IDE, maybe a Java code or a C code. When you did some mistake in the syntax, instead of if you have given IFF, it will be throwing an error. So how it will be throwing an error? Before itself, the compiler will be having a storage. It will be saying that if the person want to write a condition checking of if, then it should have I and F. There should be an open bracket and there should be a close bracket, and there should not be a semicolon. If these things are not there, then you send a error message. So through this information only, your compiler will find out there is an error in a particular line and it will throw it. That is a compiler will do. But when you're trying to do addition operation, a plus b you want to do, but by mistake if you are given a minus b, compiler will not throw any error, because that is a logical error. Compiler cannot find out any logical error. Compiler can find out only syntax or semantic errors. Semantic in the sense the meaning, the exact representation meaning of that particular syntax is called as semantic analyzer. So all these things is already stored in a database. From the database, the compiler will be taking that information, and the compiler will be taking that information and checking whether this particular format is there in your program or not. If it is not there, it will send a error. Otherwise, your compiler will not know which is correct or not. In other example, if I want to say, if you're writing a Java program, you have to write public static void main. It's compulsory, you have to write it. If in case you missed public, you have written only static void main, it will throw an error. Your main method is not identified, your main method is not visible, or your main method is not there in your program. Why so? Because compiler already having a database where it will be stored, like if you see void main, it should be prefixed with static and public. If this line public static void main is not there, this public or static or void or main is not there, you should send the error message. Like that, you will be having a repository model from where you can go for your compiler operations. Even you can do the editing operation or your debugging operations also. So this is a repository, means already there will be a database. From the database, you're trying to get the information and do the other operations. So any subsystem, whoever wants to do the operation have to get the information from the central repository only. According to the repository, rest of the subsystem have to work. So that is called as your repository model, architectural style. The next comes your model view controller. So model view controller. Now we discuss swings, right? So swings is completely depend on the model view controller. So model view controller architecture is means what? So model is nothing but the knowledge, domain knowledge, or view is nothing but the how the systems is displayed to the user, and controller is the interface between your model and the view. Very simple example if I want to tell you, if you want to place a button into a application, so you placed a button, that button is going to called as your model. So when you click the button have to be changed from blue color to red color. So this changing operation will be taken care by the view and controller, because view is for presentation. To do the modification you need to have a controller, because as I already told you, even if you have a CPU, processor is the main person who does all the work. But to do that work by the processor, you need to have a control unit who will be keep instructing the computer to do that operation. Right? So like that, you need to have a controller who will be responsible for doing that particular operation. So controller. So once the button is clicked, that button clicking operation will be informed to the view. So view. So how to inform to the view? So model, that button how to register to the view, that is subscribe to the view. Otherwise, it will not get any of the information. So the model have to register to the view. So when the button is clicked, that state information will be captured by the view and it will be sent to the controller, and controller in turn will change that button from red color to blue color. So who is going to do this operation? So your user is going to initiate certain operation. That operations will be done to the model, and the model is in turn representing to the view. So this is a simple control view model representation. So exactly how the representation is going to be changed in the future, how it is have to be done. So if you take this example, you can see here, this is the folder view, and this is the information about the individual PPT. Some PPT information they are shown, what time it is generated, how, what is the size of that, where it is exactly showed here. Now, if you want to change the name of that particular PPT, will it get reflected in both the parts? It will get reflected in the folder as well as it will get reflected in the information, detailed information, what it is showing here. Obviously, yes, both the parts, the change name will be shown. If I created a file with abcd.txt, later I want to change it to java.txt. So that abcd.txt will get replaced by all the places. So that is nothing but your model view controller will do. So here, the info view and the folder view. This is your folder view. This is your information view. So if you're trying to change the name, the controller will automatically interact with the user during the file change and send the request to the model. Then the model changes the file name and notify all the subscribers of the change. So both info view and the folder view are get updated. So here, how the exactly model view controller is working. Whenever your user is trying to do some changes, that changes is captured by the controller, and the captured change is sent to the model, and that model will get accepted that changes, and it will in turn inform to the info and folder view as the old one. So now what we are using is different, and now what we are using, I'll tell you MVC model. So this is the old one. So old one will be the controller will be the initiator, and the model will be getting the information from the controller, and in turn it is going to update to the view. This structure only is shown here. The controller is an initiator. Now I am trying to change the name of a file, that is captured by the controller, and that is sent to the model, and model is notifying the view. So one model is notified the view, the name from 9 design pattern, it can change it to abcd.txt also. In both the places it will get changed. So this is the old concept of your controller. So now exactly how it is working, what is the sequence of events it is going to do. So whenever a user is trying to enter the change, the file name, then the controller will get initiation. So once the controller gets the initiation, it is going to set new name to the model. But if the model wants to do the updation to the information view and to the folder view, the information view and the folder view have to be subscribed. to that particular model. As I told you, if you want to see the new videos of in the YouTube, that particular person's video you wanted to see. So how you will get to see? You have to either subscribe it. So every time whenever when you subscribe, every time whenever the new video is launched, you will get a message, right? So first you need to subscribe it. If you are not subscribing it, obviously whenever a new video is uploaded into the YouTube, you will not get the information for that. So the first point is that you need to subscribe. So once the controller asks to change the new name, the model will automatically change the name to the information view and to the folder view. If these two things are not being subscribed, then obviously the notification will not send to the particular view, and the name will be different in the information view, folder view, and the name will be different in your the model what you have using it. For this reason only, whenever you're trying to rename your Microsoft Word, when you opened a Word and we are typing some information and you didn't close that, but you went to the folder and you're trying to right click and do the rename, it will say operation cannot be done because the file is already in open, right? So here there is different two operations. One is already the file is in usage, you're trying to modify the opening file, so you can't do that because there is an operation link. So whenever you're trying to do some changes, this model controller view have to be come together. So this is an old one. So now what is a new term, how the new technology is used? Whenever model view controller is all connected together, if you are trying to do some changes to the model, the same change will be affected to the view one controller also. So very layman example, if I tell you, if you are inserting a button, 3D button to your application, so when you are trying to change that 3D button to 4D button, you will be trying to have some other different option and you will be adding that 4D button to your application. So because of this 4D button, when you click the button, the background image should turn to red color. So because of this 4D button, that operation may not be happen because you changed your model. The changed model is going to affect your view and controller also. So to overcome this, what we can do, we can divide your model and view and controller separately. This is only the current thing is happening. So you're going to removing the dependencies of your model. You can see here, you're going to remove the dependency of the model from the view and the controller part. So what will happen by removing this dependency? If I place 3D button or 4D button or 2D button, if I click, my background color will automatically change because that data is not depend on to the operations of view and controller. So this is the current thing what they are trying to use it. So this is about your MVC, model view controller, how this model view controller or together is communicated. So this is the technology which is being used in your swings concept. Now next is your client server. You know already what is this client server architecture. So client will be your user system and the server will be the server system, like your Gmail. Whenever you wanted to send or see your mail, you will be giving a username and password in the client system, and automatically that will get that will be accessed by this. It will go to the end. The server can be placed in any end of your world. It will go to that particular server and it will access your inbox, and your inbox content will be written as the output to your desktop itself. So that is called as your client server architecture. This is very old operations, but still we are using 2-tier as the client server architecture only for certain usage. So there can be any number of web browser is nothing but your Chrome what you're using, or Firefox or Internet Explorer. All these things are called as a web browser, where you're entering your username and password, which will in turn send to your web server to access the information, and it will be showing into your web browser itself. So any number of web browsers can have to a same server. For example, Gmail can be accessed through Chrome, Gmail can be accessed through Internet Explorer, Gmail can be accessed through your Firefox also. So there is no limitations of number of browser accessing to the same web server. So this is client server architecture. Next, you know what is peer-to-peer. Peer-to-peer is nothing but same one person can be acting as a server and he can act as a client also. As I told you, if you're using a desktop applications or a standalone application, standalone application means you're using that application only to your system. Only your laptop is going to be your system where you're going to implement an application which will work only for your laptop. It will not work with two different systems and all. It will work on only to your system. So that type of an application which is called as your standalone application. Even the calculator is also standalone application only, because it no need to have any server and all. So but you can have a standalone application using client and server. So sometime what will happen, your client will act as a server, sometime your server will be acting as a client. For example, if you have two servers, so your client is requesting to that particular server, that server is in turn requesting something to the other server. So that time the server, first server is going to act as a client and the second server is going to act as your server. So like that, mutually the requester and provider will change. So according to the place, the server can become client and client can become server. So this is called as your peer-to-peer architectural style. So here we will be using a callbacks as the operation of a temporarily used peer-to-peer communication. You can have a database wherever database. Sometime it will be acting as a server. Sometime it will be acting as a client. So when it will be acting as a server, when you're trying to update the database from your application, you will be sending that update my name, student name from some spelling mistake is there, means you will be trying to update that student name from that wrong name to the new name. So that time your student name will get updated. So once it gets updated, you will be having a trigger in your database. So what that trigger will do, it will send an information to the other applications where your, according to the name changes in the database, it will be reflecting in your mark cards, it will be reflecting in your seminar information, it will be reflecting in your presentation information. So wherever your name is there related from the database, some other applications may be using your name. So like whenever printing the mark cards, whenever there you want to you have submitted some presentation or you have submitted some research papers and all, so wherever your name is changed, the database will intimate that particular application that this particular person name is being changed from this spelling to this spelling. So that time your database is acting as a client because it is sending some information to the application. That time your application is going to act as your server, so which is called as your callbacks operations. So this is called as peer-to-peer communication. So the next one is your three tier. As I told you, three tier is nothing but an intermediate person will be there who will be dealing with the communication of two different things. See, like I have a database will know SQL, and I am the application, I know only Java. So now Java will be need to ask some information to the database. So Java need to send some information the SQL format, but Java doesn't know the SQL format. So what we need to have, I will be having an interface layer who will be taking the question from Java. Java will be sending a question to the interface like I want the complete student information about your MTech second semester. So that question will be converted in the form of queries. Select star from select student names from second semester MTech. That conversion will be done by your interface, right? So that will be taken care, and that will be go to the storage part, and from the storage part the data will be retrieved and in turn it will be showed to your user. So here your interface is nothing but the form, your application logic is the connection, and storage is your form of a query. So however you wanted to send, you can send it, and that interface will be take care of your particular communication between two different things. So this is called as your three-tier architecture. Next comes your four-tier architecture. So what is three-tier architecture? You will be having an interface layer. That interface layer is going to be divided into presentation layer and presentation server, presentation client layer and presentation server layer. So whatever you're sending, as I told you, you will be sending a query from Java to the interface layer. That interface layer will be converting into the form which is acceptable by the your database layer, right? So when you're sending your query, that interface should have a person who will understand Java, and he have to convert that Java code into the query code, and in turn when the query is returned in the form of query, that have to be converted and it have to send it to the Java understandable language. So inside the interface itself, I will be having a client and server architecture. Whenever a Java is sending a request, that request is in turn sent to the server. Server will be processing the request, and in turn the request will be sent in the form of a query, and that query will be again forwarded to the storage. From storage, whatever data is received by that interface will be again sent to the server. The server will convert that query output into the understandable language of Java, and that will be forwarded to your Java application. So there are two layers inside the interface layer itself. Then it is called as your 4-tier architecture. So this is the example. For an example, they have given a banking information system can have different clients, a web browser or a home user, an automated teller. Means like you can have a banking information. Either you can access from the ATM, or you can access from your mobile, or you can access from any machine also. So whenever you have different questions, the different format of questions, so everything will be stored in a database or a storage place that is called as a server. So according to the question, it will convert that question which is understandable by the database server, that is your banking server, and get the information and return back to you. So that is your 4-tier architecture. I think it is time up. Till pipe and filter is there. So last one, pipe and filter. Let me complete this and I will wind up. So pipe and filter architecture style is nothing but it is going to data is going to be received in the form of inputs and send the results to the other subsystem in the form of an output. I think you can understand this. You are going to receive input from one subsystem to the pipe and filter architecture, and then from this input, that pipe and filter architecture will be filtering the request, and then it is going to send to the output. For example, they are very easily understandable example is your in your Linux operating system, you would have used your ps command. What this ps command will do, it will list out the number of users, which is who and all is using into the particular operating system. Or else, very simple, you wanted to see the information about your I mean the person who is going to send email to your ID. So you are having a pipe and filter architecture. So what this it will do, whenever you are giving your email address, one subsystem will receive the email address, it will send it to the pipe, and the pipe will filter your request. Means it will take all the all the inbox information, and it will filter the information only related to your email ID. Or else, very simple, in your email itself you will be having a separate folder. For placement you will have a separate folder, or for from your friend mail alone you will be having a separate folder. Like that you will be creating a separate folders. So when you click that folder, you will get the information only related to the particular email ID which you have already selected. But when you go for all inbox detail, you will be having all the users information, all the mails which is sent to your email ID. So that is your pipe and filter architecture. So architecture. So I think you can understand, you can imagine that if you go to Gmail, you can see in the side and all spam will be there, trash will be there. There you can create your own folder also. Like your friend, if you want to send the email specifically, you can create one folder. If you want to get interview question, interview mails alone, then you can select what are the mail IDs you wanted, then you can select as a different folder. So when you're clicking that folder, you will get the information only related to that particular mail, whatever you have sorted. This is also the same. So pipe is nothing but connection between two subsystems, and filter, according to the request, it will be filtering it out. So whenever you're giving an information from request from one subsystem, the pipe will receive it and the filter will filter according to the required information, and then that filtered output will be going to you. Other layman example, in your Google, you're trying to search, you wanted to know about your OOSC question paper. What is the output you are getting? The related information about your OOSC question paper, you are getting it. How it is happening? This is nothing but pipe and filter concept. How it is happening? When you are giving a request for OOSC, the request will be taken to the server side. Server side will be having all the informations. But what the filter will do? It will take all the information and match with the words whatever you have typed in the Google, and whichever word is gets matched with the server side information, that all websites will be thrown as the output to your desktop, that is thrown as the output to your web browser. That is nothing but your pipe and filter architecture.